Recently, I had Roz in here at the depot with us to talk about how to climb an 8A sport route. And of course, we've got to do one for bouldering. So I've got our bouldering resident expert, Jonny. What's the equivalent to 8A? And we're thinking it's around V9 or 7C boulder problem. So this is a big number, big threshold. And I think when we get to this kind of difficulty, training and tactics become a big important part of it.
When climbing at this higher level, one of the first things to understand is the difference between strength and power and how we go about training these two different aspects.
We're going to define strength as moving slowly and applying maximum force, but we're going to define power as moving fast and generating a lot of momentum and speed within the movement. This boulder problem here is going to give us a great example of including strength-based moves and power-based moves. Coming through this undercut and up, we're going to be relying on strength more than power. And then the move up to this big horn above me is going to be a power-based move. The key difference here is the speed at which we're completing the moves. This is going to be more slow or static, and then the move up to the horn is going to require speed of contraction to generate the momentum and reach to the next hold. The reason we think it's important to define the difference between strength and power is because these skills are trained differently, and the way the muscle contracts to express strength or power is different and will have an influence on how you climb certain boulders and do certain moves. We often see climbers defaulting to being either very dynamic or power-based or being very good at static movements, but having a hard time translating that into the opposite end of the spectrum, either power or strength. Now you understand the difference, you can train power and strength on the climbing wall by choosing boulder problems which are going to bring out this weakness in your climbing. We're also going to be able to train strength or power in the gym, and we'll give you an example about how to do a pull-up with either a power focus or a strength focus. Remember, the key difference here is trying to perform maximally in both, but with either an element of speed or maximum force.
The next thing we're going to cover is learning to pull with your feet as much as you are able to push with them. High-level climbers are really good at using their feet in this way, and it'll often look as though they're climbing with an extra set of hands. When you're climbing at your limit, you want to be making sure that you're picking climbs that will be working with you, not against you.
Generally, if you're a shorter or a taller climber, you will have advantages or disadvantages which are just based on your anatomy. Smaller climbers generally will have smaller hands, smaller fingers, and this will be better suited to smaller holds because relatively they're going to feel bigger, whereas taller climbers are going to be able to make bigger reaches and potentially do more dynamic moves. If you're climbing your limit, play to your strengths and understand where they are.
Board climbing is quite an advanced training tool. But when you're looking to get towards the 7C kind of grade, it can be a really good way of having a more specific climbing session to what you'd find outdoors. Boards can be great for working finger strength, body tension, and also just getting used to trying really hard, which often can be the hardest thing when going outside. One thing when climbs start to get harder is that holds often get a little bit less uniform and a bit smaller, meaning that we're not always able just to use our go-to half crimp on everything. And being more familiar with different types of grips and dropping a finger can often be the difference between getting the send or not. Two grips that I think that are really useful for climbing outside is using the front three and back three half crimp positions. Not only is this going to help you prepare for the climbing outside, but it'll also help build up your half crimp strength as well. A good way to train this is to first start on the fingerboard and then gradually integrate it into your climbing as you get more comfortable in these grip positions. You can train these in a similar way to max hangs, for example, 10-second hangs on the fingerboard. However, it would be good to build up the intensity slowly over a number of weeks so that you're not causing too much shock to the system. A nice way of doing this is using a pickup edge rather than hanging from a fingerboard.
As well as the tactics and training methods Jonny has been talking us through today, it's also really important to build up your experience within bouldering. This means building a really good base, or what we might call a grade pyramid of grades below that 7C mark and just below your max limit. Probably one of the biggest reasons or factors we'll see behind people that tend to be really strong for a given grade and not quite being able to perform is just the fact that they've not put enough time and work into building out that experience and base of routes below their maximum grade. Before we go, I've just got one quick question to ask as we've been arguing about this. What are better, the font grades or the V grades? Let us know in the comments below and we'll see you next time.